caution. Your paradigm is about to shift at the intersection of fact and reason. You're entering Kingston Country.
I'm Dan Kingston, and you're listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast. What is the Frey Effect? Can microwaves actually send intelligible words into people's brains? Does the U.S. Air Force have this technology? Do other countries have the technology to beam words into your brain? How long have people known about this, had this technology? What can microwaves do? And I started thinking about this because the Israeli defense technology company, Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, created what's basically a laser beam that can shoot down drones. It's mounted on a car, and yeah, it's straight out of Star Wars, using a laser beam to shoot down drones. A swarm of drones is a major threat. It's hard to take them out one at a time using a gun or a jet fighter or something like that. So they invented a laser beam solution. Now, there's a video of it going around. Maybe you've seen it. And recently, we've come up with our own kind of solution. The Air Force Research Laboratory at Kirtland Air Force Base created a tactical high-power microwave operational responder called Thor. This is our defense against drones. So Israel uses laser beams, but we're using a high-powered microwave emitter, or a microwave weapon, you could call it. And that can take down a fleet of drones as well, using a silent electromagnetic wave. So this is the power of microwaves. The microwave in your oven, the microwave oven in your apartment or house, that's what this is capable of. When you're using it as a weapon and concentrating the beams, they can actually take down drones. And they can also do much more insidious things. So, for instance, during the Cold War, we were worried that the Soviet Union could use microwaves for mind control. Okay, now that sounds crazy, right? But just keep listening, because we also worked to develop microwaves for sending audible noises into people's heads for the purpose, yes, of psychological warfare. So that's not just something that a foreign power, we were afraid a foreign power might develop. We, in fact, developed it ourselves because we were afraid they would develop it. Now, there's something called the Frey Effect, and I've mentioned this earlier. It's named after Allan Frey, who discovered microwaves can indeed fool a brain into hearing phantom sounds when no sound exists at all, right? Microwaves are silent. That's why this system called Thor, the Tactical High-Power Microwave Operational Responder, is silent. It takes down the drones using a silent electromagnetic wave. But when you concentrate the electromagnetic wave, aka the microwave, at someone's brain or head, well, they can indeed hear phantom sounds, even at powers, a microwave power that's lower than what's used in your microwave oven. That's right. Even a very low power microwave that's concentrated at your head, or if you're in the room, let's say, or in the container of the microwave emitter, a very low power microwave can indeed create clicking sounds or hissing sounds. They call it phantom sounds where no sound exists. And you may have heard about this incident in Cuba. We had some diplomats in Cuba over there who were complaining of weird sounds, weird auditory sounds, and they ended up coming home. They brought them back home, dozens of these diplomats in Cuba, and it turns out they got brain damage somehow. We don't really know what it was. One of the main suspects is some kind of microwave weapon. And so federal investigators actually went to question Allan Frey, who was the first to discover this, and asked about, what he thought of the Cuban diplomat incidences. Could it be a microwave weapon? Allan Frey indeed did think it was plausible, maybe even probable, that it was some kind of microwave weapon. Now, experts do say the human head is especially good at picking up microwaves. It's weird, but our heads are actually like antennas, believe it or not. Even deaf people can hear these false sounds, and even at very low power levels. I already mentioned that. Okay. So what you have here is a brain or a head that's conducive. And when scientists realize that, of course, they're going to explore how to weaponize the microwaves when they realize that the brain can pick up the microwaves and it's having these hallucinatory effects. Of course, they're going to use it for psychological warfare. They're afraid that it's being used against us, so they're going to do it themselves. You know, it's kind of reminiscent of that program that was discussed a lot in the show Wormwood. I don't know if you saw that. But the CIA was doing all these psychological experiments with LSD, trying to do mind control that way. So it's not like this is new. They've always wanted to control people's minds. And it looks like microwaves are kind of the latest iteration of that. And highly advanced, highly successful by all accounts. In 1994, Air Force scientists were successful at sending comprehensible speech. They actually demonstrated, quote, experimentally demonstrated that the signal is intelligible. And that came from the lead inventor. And that's was a disclosure form in 1994. They disclosed that invention for psychological warfare purposes. Now, you can only imagine how far that technology's come from 1994. And I'd argue it's come a long way. Back to the incident in Cuba with our diplomats, none of them said they heard voices, okay? But they did have brain damage, many of them, when they came home, like concussion symptoms, traumatic brain injury from no trauma besides weird sounds, okay? And I want to read you something from the National Security Agency. This was October 16th, 2014. And this was in result to a lawsuit, I guess Freedom of Information Act or something, but it reveals a lot, it sheds light on what might have happened in Cuba. Listen to this. This is a quote. The National Security Agency confirms that there is intelligence information from 2012 associating the hostile country to which Mr. Beck traveled in the late 1995 with a high-powered microwave system weapon that may have the ability to weaken, intimidate, or kill an enemy over time, and without leaving evidence. The 2012 intelligence information indicated that this weapon is designed to bathe a target's living quarters in microwaves, causing numerous physical effects, including a damaged nervous system. Okay, so who Mr. Beck is, I don't know, but this was released in response to a lawsuit involving Mr. Beck or something like this. The important thing is not the individual in the lawsuit or that got this unclassified or declassified. What's important here is the fact that the National Security Agency is confirming that the 2012 intelligence information indicated that this weapon is designed to bathe a target's living quarters in microwaves, causing numerous physical effects. So could that have happened in Cuba to these diplomats, our diplomats? I say, looks like it. At least it looks like foreign powers like Russia, China, for instance, would have the capability to do this.
This is Kingston Country.
The Dan Kingston podcast is brought to you by Traveling with Janice and Cruise Brothers. This is a great time of year to plan your summer vacations. Lots of great travel specials for cruises and tours. Call Traveling with Janice and Cruise Brothers for all these ideas for families, groups, weddings. 480-648-3324 or email travelingwithjanice@gmail.com. Because the human brain is so good at picking up microwave weapons, because this is the kind of technology people laugh at and say, yeah, right, sure, haha. But then when you see that they were actually successful and experimentally demonstrated that the signal is intelligible, well, that's 1994. And you have an episode in Iraq, in the Iraq War, when the invasion happened, if you remember, people dropped their weapons, the Iraqi forces ran away. Some of them said they heard voices. And we had microwave weapons that were being used. Now, nobody knows for sure what exactly what those voices were we actually sending voices on purpose? But there are reports of Iraqi soldiers saying they heard voices telling them to drop their weapons and run away. So then your guess is as good as mine. It sounds like maybe we've been using this kind of weapon for psychological warfare. Indeed, we have the technology, we've been using it, and it's probably being used against us in a less sophisticated way. Because I would imagine it'd be easier to bathe a room in harmful microwave emitter radiation, as opposed to being so nuanced, you can actually send individual words like drop your weapons, or this is God, drop your weapons. Now, if we are doing that, sending words into people's heads, is that not torture? Could it not be construed as torture if people are like losing their minds because of this? And I think we really need to make a really careful analysis here, because there's a huge problem of mental illness in this country. And a lot of people hear voices in their heads. And, when you're working in a medical field, I'm no medical professional, but I remember from like a psychology class, the first thing you're supposed to do with somebody that hears voices or thinks they're paranoid or schizophrenic or that kind of thing is to make sure they don't have a reason to actually be a paranoid a person, that there's nobody actually trying to kill them. You have to figure that out first. You can't just medicate somebody who's paranoid without making sure they're not actually paranoid for a good reason. Now, when you have it come out that they can send words and beam words into your head, it makes it a lot harder, doesn't it, for medical professionals, health professionals to say, well, that's impossible, sir. These words aren't being beamed into your head. That's impossible. You can't say that. All you could say is it's very probable you're mental and it's not the CIA, but, we can't rule out that the Air Force could have your, quarters targeted with microwave radiation that's emitting voices telling you to do what they're telling you to do. I don't know. Is this complicated? Am I overcomplicating this? I think that whenever you're developing weapons that mess with people's minds, maybe we should have a little bit of a discussion. This got classified right away after it was invented in 1994. We have no idea about the progress. We really have no idea about the progress of other countries' technology against us, how they're using it against us. I've had people contact me telling me that they believe Russians are communicating with them through some kind of weapon, and have actually brainwashed Congress and brainwashed Americans using some kind of microwave weapon. And so people really do believe that. And believe it or not, it hasn't just been one person that's reached out to me about weird thinking like this, that they're hearing voices that they think are as coming from a foreign power. So it's kind of creepy when then you look into it and you realize, oh shit, there's actually some facts and truth to this kind of weaponization of microwaves. And I think that that's going to make a lot of people uneasy, especially people that are already kind of mental. So if you're listening there and you're struggling with what's real and what's not real, I would just say, I would say this. Yes, you're right. They are using microwave weapons to do strange things and strange experiments on the battlefield, maybe even against American citizens or dissidents in other countries against their own citizens. Yeah, maybe so. It's also highly more likely you're just struggling through some kind of mental illness right now. And I think, you really got to get that taken care of. And if you're not struggling through a mental illness, then there's no harm in talking about the very real weaponization of microwave technology, and we should be on the guard against any kind of technology that's interfering with our brains.
Kingston Country. You've been listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.
Dan Kingston here, asking you to do me a huge favor. Will you possibly rate the Dan Kingston podcast on Apple Podcasts? Each new rating, believe it or not, really does have a major impact on the way Apple's algorithm recommends content. With just one quick click, you can help promote citizen journalism and end the stranglehold of the mainstream media. Together, we're going to do this. Thank you. I really appreciate your support.